He has fractured his wrist and is going to miss a lot of time. We'd love to hear from you at 877-881-1053. Got plenty of calls lined up, so you can get in line, and we'll definitely try and get to you as soon as possible. Hello to everyone on Twitter Live. Go to @Jared Sandler on Twitter. Find the link. You can join that way. You'll be able to hear the calls as well. And you can also tune in on the Twitch stream on the 105.3 The Fan Twitch channel. A lot to talk about. Thought it was just going to be, your standard win in which the lineup performed. The starting pitching did well. Bullpen was good. But then Phil Maton just could not find the zone in the ninth inning. He hit Evan Carter. He hit Adolis Garcia. And then he hit Josh Young. Now, Josh Young was not awarded first base because in trying to get out of the way of the pitch, he technically swung. But the pitch hit him, and he exited. And we learn now that Josh Young with a fractured wrist. So not good news there. All right, what can the Rangers do? What are their options? And we'll get to the phones after this. I think the simplest option is that the Rangers have Ezekiel Duran as their primary third baseman, and you play matchups. Now, that doesn't mean Zeke starts only versus lefties and Josh Smith versus righties, but you try and take into account who Zeke might fit well against and maybe sit him against some tougher righties. But who do you call up? Justin Foscue is a guy who I think absolutely deserves opportunities at the big league level, but I don't know, how he fits because Justin Foscue defensively at third is not at the level where you want to run him out there every day. Now, would the Rangers say, hey, you know what? Who cares? We want his bat because we're losing a middle of the order bat. I guess that's possible, right? But you are going to have a weakness defensively at third base if that's, the direction in which the Rangers go. With Ezekiel Duran, you got a guy who, can play the infield. He hasn't gotten off to a bad start this year. You have Josh Smith maybe start occasionally. Josh is, of course, a good defensive player. And then who do you call up? Well, you can call up Jonathan Ornelas to be a utility backup. You don't have to worry about needing to find him at bats. You can call up a guy who's not on the 40-man and Davis Wenzel, who can kind of fill a similar utility role along the infield, but not so much the outfield, which is okay. Those are probably your options. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. I'm not sure if there's anyone else that really makes sense. Maybe a Matt Duffy. I guess it's possible that Matt Duffy, who utilized his opt-out but then signed back as a free agent, you could call up Matt Duffy. You'd have to make a 40-man move. Now, could you make a 40-man move with Josh Young? Is putting Josh Young on the 60 an option based on his timeline? I don't think we know that just yet. I think we'll probably get more information on that tomorrow. Obviously, the news just went down. If you can put Josh Young on the 60, then, that clears up any potential 40-man concern with a guy like Matt Duffy. So I think it's interesting what options the Rangers might have, but would love to hear from you. Let's go to Carter in Fort Worth joining us first on Extra Innings, brought to you by our friends at Uber Eats.
Hey, Jared. Thanks for taking my call tonight. That was a great game until they're in the ninth inning. You hate to see Josh Young go down with that injury. I do want to focus on some positive things I saw. I thought it was really good to see the aggressiveness on the base pass, some couple stolen bases, forced that bad throw when Josh did steal second base, and we scored a run on that. And then, he was out at home plate, but the Wyatt Langford, that was a crazy play. So I like the aggressiveness on the base pass. And then, you touched on it. I think I would expect to see Zeke play some third base, majority of the time, but Foscue sounds like the guy to come up. And I was thinking Davis Wenzel, I wasn't totally locked into spring training, but looking at the numbers, looked like he had a pretty good spring, and, he can play that third base position, and maybe we could see him get a chance up here.
Yeah, appreciate it, Carter. I'm not going to rule anything out. I think the most likely option is Zeke. And again, I think it depends on how you view third base. Because if you view Zeke as the guy who's going to get, every day or close to every day at bats, then, maybe you call up a Matt Duffy to be a veteran backup. You're not really concerned about his plate appearances. And if you feel like you can create a 40-man spot if Josh Young goes on the IL or the 60-day IL, then maybe that's the direction you go. Maybe you say, hey, Davis Wenzel, here's your chance. You're not going to get everyday opportunities, but here's your chance. And maybe Davis Wenzel can, be the guy you bring on late for defensive purposes, and whatever at bats, he gets. I think he homered in his first AAA game for whatever that's worth. Or maybe you say, hey, we don't have to make a 40-man move. We're not sure if we want to put Josh Young on the 60-day IL because he might come back sooner than that. So Jonathan Ornelas, you're already on the 40. Sorry, you're not going to get a lot of at bats, but here you go. You're a big leaguer again, and when the opportunity presents itself, you'll get in there. But Jonathan Ornelas is a guy who could also be a defensive upgrade, if needed, perhaps late in the game. The question is, what do you view as your best option in terms of your everyday third baseman? Are you going to platoon? If you're going to platoon, who's the guy who's going to start against righties? Is it Josh Smith? Or are you going to say, hey, Josh, all right, here's your chance, right? Here's your chance to start against righties. You're going to provide us that best option because you are going to, play really good defense over at third. And, if we can stick you at the bottom of the order and get on base, all right. Zeke, you're going to be our guy against lefties. I think the Rangers have a lot of different options here. If they go with Josh Smith, a defensive guy who hasn't yet shown at the major league level that he can really contribute at a high level offensively, does that change the way they view the outfield? Does that maybe give Leody Taveras a shorter leash because the Rangers want to get more bats in there? Something the Rangers could do. I hate to, bring this up is, what if it's Josh Smith and they call up Justin Foscue and they tell Leody Taveras that he's, not going to be the everyday guy because they really want to get another bat in there. I'm just throwing out all sorts of scenarios here. I think if Leody Taveras struggles for a couple weeks, and he has not struggled offensively yet, let's just make that clear. But let's say he had a couple of slow weeks. Well, maybe the Rangers consider now without Josh Young wanting to get another bat in there. I think there are a lot of different options. Again, I think the most likely option is Ezekiel Duran is going to get a lion's share of the opportunities at third base, but I do think, you could see, Bruce Bochy likes Josh Smith. Maybe they give Josh a couple weeks to see what he can do, as the regular at third against righties, understanding that, he's going to give you really, really good defense at third base. And not that Zeke couldn't give you good defense at third, but that with Josh, you're going to get high level D. So I think you got some options here. William joining us here on Extra Innings, brought to you by Uber Eats. You're up next, William. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Jared? First time on the air. Pretty pumped up, man. I just want to say, I love the way the guys are playing. I know we're only 4 games in, but it looks like they're playing some good baseball. Love the aggressiveness on the base pads. Donis Garcia, 3 home runs already. I can't wait to see what he does for the rest of the season. As far as, Young going down, yeah, it sucks. I don't think we're going to be, too bad as far as, batting, but, it's definitely going to swing defensively. I kind of agree with you, with Josh Smith and Zeke. I think you just kind of rotate both the guys in and out, see what fits best, and kind of go from there. But I think it's going to be a great season. Hopefully go back-to-back and repeat. And let's go Rangers!
Hey, appreciate it, William. Thanks so much for that maiden voyage here on Extra Innings. Great hearing from you. Let's go to Ken and Irving, 877-881-1053. Hey, Ken.
Evening, Jared. Thanks for taking my call. Kind of what I was originally going to call. If I want to change directions here from touching on what the last caller just said. Did Adolis get his 100 baseball back when he got the home run? And the second thing I was going to ask, I've noticed that when y'all are doing interviews that hadn't seen it, like Bob's Steak and Chop House, or are they not doing that this year for the players? And I'll just hang up and listen to you.
We have done Bob's already. We did it on opening day, and I don't know if Adolis got his ball. I'm sure he did, but I appreciate the very specific questions there, Ken. Owen in Waco, Extra Innings, brought to you by Uber Eats. Owen, you're up.
Hey, Jared. Thanks so much for taking my call. First off, I just want to give a great shout out to you and Eric and Matt for just, as always, just bringing us great broadcasts. It's been a joy to get back into the swing of things and listen to y'all. It's just been awesome. So just kudos to y'all as always. And second of all, I'm just obviously just gutted for Josh just to see him to get off to the start that he has ahead of a really important April for us. It's tough to see. You just heart goes out to him, and just hope he gets back soon and has a great recovery. And just beyond the 1 through 9, even that bench depth, just in minor league depth, going to come in. Got to come in clutch for us. My idea, what I wanted to say is that I'm thinking about Justin Foscue and how we want him to be getting regular at bats wherever he's at. And when you look at the makeup of our infield right now, obviously he's a guy who's earned it and had a great spring and seems major league ready. But when you look at, do you want to take away at bats at first from Jared Walsh, or do you want to potentially give off days to Marcus Semien at second, who's basically a 162 game a year player? That's just what concerns me, and the only thing that would stop me from wanting Foscue up. So just if you would give your thoughts on that, specifically Justin's defensive abilities there as it relates for us, the team. And that's basically all I had. So thank you all so much, and go Rangers.
Yeah, I appreciate the call, Owen. I think with Justin Foscue, the Rangers view him as a second baseman, first baseman, or maybe more than anything else a DH. I don't know that the Rangers really view him as a third baseman. I think that in a pinch, could he play third? Yes, but you're not calling him up here to play third for a pinch. You'd be calling him up to play every day. I'm not saying the Rangers would not consider that. It just seems unlikely. If they do have him play third, then the Rangers are basically saying, we don't really care about, the defensive drop-off because we really, really love the bat. But unfortunately, I just don't know that it makes I don't know that that's the option that makes the most sense. Defense is such a hallmark of what this team does, especially along the infield, especially with some of the guys you have on your team, like Dane Dunning, who gets a lot of ground balls, like Michael Lorenzen, who will eventually be with the big league club, who gets a lot of ground balls and not necessarily as many strikeouts. So I just think that infield defense is really important. If Justin Foscue was an average infield defender at third base, then maybe it's a different story, but I don't think they view him as that. Marcus Semien's not going to take a lot of days off. Maybe you squeeze 1 or 2 out of him throughout the year, but now's not the time with Josh Young going down. And with Jared Walsh, all right, if you want Justin Foscue to play first, it's not like Jared Walsh is going to move over and play third. So that doesn't really solve the third base issue. I'd love to see Justin Foscue up as well. I really would. I really think that you give Justin Foscue consistent at bats, he's going to reward you. Unfortunately, you got to wait for the right time, and I don't know that this is the right time to do it. I don't know that they would want to have Justin Foscue up just to ride the bench, especially if you're going to remove either Ezekiel Duran or Josh Smith from a true bench role. You're going to want someone who's got a little more utility on the bench. So maybe that's why a guy like Jonathan Ornelas, who can play the 3 infield spots, and maybe in a pinch the outfield, Davis Wenzel could probably play all 4 infield spots. If you felt like you wanted to or could create a 40-man spot, and same with Matt Duffy, I think that's maybe the route they're more likely to go, to fill a bench spot and then elevate Ezekiel Duran, or Ezekiel Duran in combination with Josh Smith as a platoon over at third. But I don't know. I think that Josh Young does. It's easy when a player's one-dimensional or really leans that way. But when you got a guy like Josh Young, who's a Gold Glove caliber third baseman, who's also a middle of the order bat, you can't just replace him with one player. And so what I'm curious about is how this move impacts the other 8 guys and how the Rangers want to deploy the other 8 guys and how they consider their roster as a whole. But I do think that Ezekiel Duran might be the guy, along with Josh Smith, who get the majority of the plate appearances right away at the third base spot. Chris in Plano, you're up next, 877-881-1053. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Jared. I'm not digging what I'm hearing from the team and the callers. Well, first of all, why didn't the umpire, after he hit Garcia, why didn't he toss the damn guy? First of all, that's my first point. My second point is we're the World Series champions. They're showing no respect. I don't buy Mark McLemore after the game saying he just didn't have his stuff, he wasn't intentional. That's a bunch of bull. 3 times in a row, El Bombay should have charged that mound. And you think this ain't over, man. The Astros are going to come and they're going to do the same stuff. It's crap baseball. It's no respect for the World Series champions. That umpire should have tossed him after he hit Garcia. Do you not concur?
I don't. I don't think there was any intent behind that, and I think it's a slippery slope if you just start tossing guys for hitting people. Oh, did we lose Chris? Okay, I think we lost Chris. I understand. Listen, I think Chris's frustration is, born out of the, hey, you hit one of our guys, we're going to come back and you punch us, we punch you. I don't know that, Evan Carter barely got hit, and I don't know. I don't think that there was any intent behind hitting Adolis Garcia. I don't think you toss Phil Maton after that. Maybe you issue a warning. Unfortunately, I don't know. I guess it'd probably be tough to toss Phil Maton after he got Josh Young to swing and miss at the pitch. Now, it wasn't like, such a nasty pitch that he swung and missed and got hit. He technically swung because he was trying to get out of the way. I don't know the answer to this. I don't know if a guy's ever been tossed on a pitch that hit a batter, but the batter swung and missed on. I guess there's no reason why you couldn't toss the pitcher there, but I did not think that there was intent behind hitting Adolis Garcia. What I will tell you is I'd be surprised if the Rangers didn't do something tomorrow, because I do agree with Chris that intentional or not, you don't want to set the tone like, hey, you can throw it, our cleanup hitter, you can throw it our all-star third baseman, and we're just going to let it slide. And I think if the Rays play this the right way, they understand, they know it's coming, and they're just going to take their base. If you're Andrew Heaney, you do it the right way. You don't go above the waist. You go below the waist, and you just send that message right away that you're not going to you're not going to allow that stuff to happen. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how this would have been avoided. It's just, it's terrible luck. Now, I will say this. I thought Chris was going to go this direction with it. This is a team that's the defending World Series champions. And let's not forget what made them World Series champions. It was because of the depth and the resilience that they showed. They showed it last year. They, in a very short period of time, dealt with a lot of injuries to a lot of really good players. They've done this. This next man up stuff they've done. So, the Josh Young injury on its own, it stinks. And this team is obviously better with Josh Young than without. But they've done this before. And they're going to have to do it again, unfortunately. They were always going to have to do it again. It was just a matter of who and when. Well, after the 4th game of the year, it's your starting third baseman who was the all-star starter at third base in the American League, who had gotten off to a really good start. That's who. And the Rangers are going to have to navigate through this. Stinks. Doesn't seem fair. It's not, but it's just the reality. It's their reality. It was their reality last year, and they did it. And they're going to have to do it again. Let's go to Colton and Abilene at 877-881-1053. Hey, Colton.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
What's going on? What do you got for us?
I actually was going to say the exact same thing you did, man. It's like our depth is what got us so far last year. That's what was able to even get us, deep in the playoffs and deep into the World Series, man. Like, we were able to bounce back off of all these horrible things that had happened to players, unexpected things that had happened, man. And I think people forget how awesome Zeke was whenever Corey went down last year. Like, he was top 5 in OPS for about a month and a half that Corey was gone. And honestly, I feel like it's Zeke's time to shine again. And let's not look at this, too harshly. I think we got it.
All right. Hey, appreciate the positivity there, Colton. Yeah, and here's the thing too. When there's an injury, you always, think mostly about your team and forget that every, teams deal with this, right? Jose Altuve missed significant time for the Astros last year, and he's obviously an incredibly important player for them. Josh Young's an incredibly important player. The Rangers were able to respond from injuries to some of their important leverage bats last season. And I think they're going to, obviously be tested with this, not just with Josh Young, but I'm sure other times throughout the year. With all that said, it still stinks, right? You still can take tonight and be upset about it. But yeah, I do think to Colton's point, I'm sure several others feel this way. Hey, I mean, this is the cold reality is this is sports. This is baseball. And it's not just baseball. Any sport, no one's going to write you apology notes because a guy gets hurt. And the Rangers don't get any sort of insurance. It's not like losses only count as half while Josh Young's out, and they got to figure out a way. And the great thing is this: what were we talking about all weekend? How deep the Rangers lineup is. How deep their position player group is. All right, cool. Well, here's where you really show that off. I think this is a great opportunity for Ezekiel Duran to show that he has learned from last year, that he has grown. Maybe it will help that, if it is Zeke, right? I don't know for sure, but if it is Zeke, maybe it will help that Zeke is going to have the opportunity to play one position and not have to worry about bouncing around. So, again, if you're just joining us, Josh Young, fractured wrist, and hello to everyone. We had nearly 3,000 folks on Twitter Live, at Jared Sandler on Twitter to join the feed there. You can go to the 105.3 The Fan YouTube page, the 105.3 The Fan Twitch stream, a lot of different ways to join us. And we'd love to hear from you at 877-881-1053. Going to get to the calls here in a little bit. But, the options are, it could be Ezekiel Duran just as the everyday guy. I guess there's a scenario in which the Rangers would consider platooning Ezekiel Duran and Josh Smith, but that would mean Josh Smith would get majority of the starts at third because if you're going to platoon, you would have him start against righties. And if you do that, you would say, all right, hey, we really value Josh's defense. We feel like he's made improvements offensively. Here you go. Justin Foscue's name is getting thrown out there. I just don't think that he is at a level defensively at third base that would allow for the Rangers to feel good about making that decision. Maybe. I could be wrong, but maybe. And then as far as who you call up, I guess you could call up Justin Foscue and say, all right, I don't know when you're going to get playing time, but we want you here. You could call up Jonathan Ornelas, who could, he's already on the 40. He could be your utility backup. You're not really concerned about getting him at bats. Same with Davis Wenzel and same with Matt Duffy. The only difference with Wenzel and Duffy, not the only, but the biggest one is that neither of those guys are on the 40-man. You'd have to create a 40-man spot. Not that you can't do that. And maybe you do that with Josh Young if he's going to be out more than 60 days. You put him on the 60-day IL. So, the Rangers have some options. I don't know that there is an obvious option other than perhaps Ezekiel Duran being involved in some capacity. All right, let's see who's been waiting the longest here. We've got Jose in Arlington. He's been waiting patiently. Appreciate you, Jose. You're on with us here. Extra Innings, brought to you by our friends at Uber Eats.
Hey, Jared. Appreciate you taking my call as usual. So I kind of, just been listening to everybody's calls and touching base on everything. And you were right. You kind of touched base this weekend as far as the depth that we do have and the time that we get to show this off now. Now, one thing I do want to kind of bring up is the fact is if you remember last year when Josh went down, our team kind of went down with him as well when we went through this little slump of kind of losing games and we weren't doing very well. And it was probably like a 6-week span, if I remember correctly, with the whole thumb injury. But that's my only concern kind of going into this. Obviously, we came out the gate looking real sharp. Everybody's, just kind of continuation of last year. And you're right, this is our chance to show our depth off. I guess that's my only concern going into it because last year he was such a pivotal part of the team. And if you do look at the numbers, whenever that did happen last year, there was a significant slight drop off from what the team had been producing. So I guess that's my only concern moving forward. Obviously, it's a marathon, not a sprint, so we got all season to go through this. But appreciate you taking my call, and thanks again.
Yeah, thanks, Jose. And Jose's right. The Rangers' struggles did coincide with Josh Young's injury. Now, it's so tough to nail it down to just that, right? The Rangers were struggling, because of reasons other than a lack of production at third base. They were struggling because of the bullpen, and Josh Young's absence did not, lead to a super bullpen meltdown. The Rangers also had other injuries during that time, but there's no doubt that Josh Young's absence did not yield positive results for the Rangers. Maybe it's different year, different outcome. Hopefully they can rally around the fact that they've got to play without their young third baseman. And for Josh too, by the way, just a side note. I feel for the guy, right? There are players who they are injury prone because they, it just seems like it's a muscle thing here and a muscle thing there and a muscle thing there and here. And it's like their body breaks down. Josh Young last year misses time because a line drive injures his thumb. This time around, it's getting hit by a pitch. He got hurt diving once. I mean, it's just, you feel for the guy. But unfortunately, this is the reality for Josh and the Rangers, and they got to wake up tomorrow ready to respond. David in San Antonio at 877-881-1053. Hey, David.
How you doing, Jared? I got a quick question. What is the timetable on Nathaniel Lowe? And do you think that Josh Smith will get majority of the starts at third because Duran is kind of like the platoon first baseman now? And I'm gutted for Josh because this dude was on a tear to start the season. And he's like the unforgotten kind of like star in the rising because we have Wyatt and Carter, but Young's just been phenomenal defense and offensively. So him going down it's heartbreaking, and I just thought the prayers go to him. And I just wanted to know about the timetable on Nathaniel Lowe. And thanks, Jeff, for taking my call, and go Trojans.
Yeah, that's right. Go Trojans. Halftime against UConn. Big Elite Eight matchup there. So good question with Nathaniel Lowe. I don't know that we have a lasered in timeline, but I think the thought was mid to late April and maybe closer to late April. But I don't know that he's far enough along to where you feel really good saying, hey, he is 2 weeks out, right? It's a good question about what to do at first base, because against lefties, the thought was maybe Ezekiel Duran would start. Now, against a lefty on Sunday, Jordan Wicks, Jared Walsh started. That's in part because Corey Seager got the day off. So Ezekiel Duran was at short, so you had Jared Walsh start at first. Would the Rangers consider having Jared Walsh start against lefties? A few ways to think of this. One, the lefty's not going to pitch all 9 innings, and depending on the bullpen makeup of the opposing team, maybe it would make sense because you figure, all right, half his at-bats will come against the lefty, but then you're also going to have him against, the right-handed relievers later in the game. You always could pinch hit and bring him in the second half of the game, right, if that's the concern. But if Jared Walsh is not going to start at first against lefties, who is? All right, so now maybe is that where Davis Wenzel comes into play? All right, do you feel better about Davis Wenzel because maybe when a lefty is on the mound, you call up Davis Wenzel. Davis Wenzel could play short. Maybe you have him at first and keep Zeke at short. But now you have someone to platoon at first base since that might not be Zeke. Not short, Zeke at third. You either have Davis Wenzel go to third and Zeke at first, or if you want to just keep Zeke there consistently at third, then have Davis Wenzel play first. You could do that with Jonathan Ornelas, but I don't know that, I don't know that he's got the ability to play first as well. Matt Duffy's another option there. And the thought process would be, hey, if Zeke is going to be your third baseman, let him play third every day. And then you move others around him, right? Or you might just say, hey, Zeke, you're going to play first. Davis will play third. Or Zeke, you play first. Jonathan Ornelas, you play third. Or Zeke, you play first. And Matt Duffy, you play third, right? I think that's possibly what the Rangers would consider. And then Justin Foscue. Maybe that is the Justin Foscue opening, right? He is your first baseman against lefties, and you figure out other ways to get his bat in there. But I just don't think Justin Foscue as your everyday option at third base right now makes the most sense. The only question is if you bring up Justin Foscue, now your bench is Travis Jankowski, who's an outfielder only, Andrew Kisner, who's a catcher, and Justin Foscue, who's kind of a DH first baseman and maybe second baseman, and then Josh Smith, who can play a little bit of everything. Do you feel comfortable with Josh Smith as a utility guy to cover, your needs on the bench. And if you do, then maybe Justin Foscue does make sense. Foscue, again, where do you get him at bats? You platoon him at first, and then, perhaps you find other opportunities along the way as a pinch hitter, off the bench option. That's possible. It just depends on how they view third. Do they view this as Zeke's job every day, or are they not as confident in Zeke holding that job every day? That's going to help determine the direction which the Rangers want to go. All right, Reed in Fort Worth, you're up next. You're on Extra Innings, brought to you by Uber Eats. Hey, Reed.
Hey, Jared. How's it going? Thanks for taking my call. So we got a manager in Bruce Bochy who obviously just led the team to a World Series, and he's renowned for his pitching maneuvers in the postseason and what have you. I've seen a lot of discourse on Twitter, though, about how he uses position players and gives guys time off. How much at this point do we need to trust Bochy at being just as good of managing a 162-game season as well as the playoffs with injuries coming up? And it seems like he did use the lineup and the bench so well last year when guys went down. How much do we need to trust in this guy who just led the franchise to their first ever World Series?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And in fairness, in a situation like this, you trust Bruce Bochy and you trust Chris Young because those are the guys who are going to be helping to make this decision. Yeah, you absolutely are going to trust them. I think what's interesting about this is that I don't know that there's an obvious option. My guess is, Ezekiel Duran ends up getting a majority of the time at third base, but, maybe not 100%. And who's going to fill there? As one of the callers earlier brought up, all right, who is going to now platoon with Jared Walsh? There are a few different scenarios here, a few different possibilities, a few different options. 877-881-1053, 877-881-1053. I think Reed does make a good point, though. I mean, you got the right guys in place to help, lead this ship. And not just manager, not just GM, but leadership group in the clubhouse, too. I don't think these guys are going to bat an eye. I think they're going to feel badly for Josh, things for him. But they've been through this. Let's not forget, last year, the beginning of the season, the Rangers were without Corey Seager for almost 2 months. Not quite, a month and a half. And then in the second half, they were without Nathan Eovaldi for an extended period of time. They were without Corey Seager for a few weeks. They were without Jonah Heim for a few weeks. Josh Young. They did not lose Marcus Semien or Nathaniel Lowe. And then you go to the outfield. They lost Adolis Garcia for a period of time as well. They lost a number of All-Stars. And they found a way. And so they are tested in that. And I don't know that that's a great thing. Like it's one of those things where, thank gosh we lost because we could learn a lesson. I don't think you have to lose to learn lessons. I don't think you have to lose to get better. You don't have to deal with 6 injuries to all-stars to harden yourself as a team. But I mean, this is just the reality of this group. They've experienced it, and they're going to have to deal with losing an all-star for an extended period of time again. Robert and McKinney joining us here at 877-881-1053. Hey, Robert.
Hey, how you doing? To me, having defense at third base is the most important thing. Whether or not the guy can hit or not, it's not as important as making sure that you're covered, because it's just so many balls go to third base, and you got to have somebody that is good at third base. But with that said, and I'm going to throw out a way out of the box idea, Evan Longoria still hasn't been signed.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's an option.
So, he
I said it was way crazy.
Yeah, no, hey, I appreciate it. We like crazy, Robert. Sometimes times like this, you gotta be crazy. I think you got to ask yourself the question: do you want Evan Longoria over Ezekiel Duran? And I think that if you believe in Ezekiel Duran or believe he has some sort of a future, I don't know that you would sign a 38-year-old to come in and take everyday reps. And the other thing too is defensively, he's not what he used to be. I think if he was still Gold Glove third baseman, that caliber, maybe it's a different story. He's, his defensive metrics have trended downward, and we even saw it last year when he'd get out there in the World Series, just doesn't move as well. It's an interesting name, though. I'm not going to listen. I've learned enough that, if the guy's living with a heartbeat, I guess you can't totally rule it out. I would go 94% that's not the direction they would go. He does have experience with Bruce Bochy. And maybe, I guess I'd say this. I mean, I think it would be more likely if they brought in Evan Longoria, it would be to be as a backup. But then the problem there is now you're bringing in a third baseman only as a backup, and there's not a lot of position flexibility, right? That's the other thing is I think it's important to remember it's not just about third, but all right, if Ezekiel Duran's your everyday third baseman, you still need that utilitarian spot on the bench. You need someone who can play multiple positions. And again, if it's me and I'm not Chris Young is way smarter than I am. But if it's me, I think I like Ezekiel Duran, and I think that I'd like to see where he's at. And it's not that Zeke's a defensive liability, right? There's a way different conversation with Zeke and Justin Foscue. I think Zeke is, if he is playing the same position every day, just like he did at shortstop last year, I think he could be really good at third. Josh Young has been, dynamite at third. I don't know that he'd be at that level, but I think he'd be really good. Justin Foscue, I think, would be a below average third baseman defensively. So he and Zeke, that's not the same conversation. And that's why I don't think that they go the Justin Foscue route every day at third base. Kind of to Robert's point there about the importance of defense. Ethan, you've been waiting a super long time over in Fort Worth. I appreciate your patience. You're up with us here on Extra Innings. Hey, Ethan.
Hi, Jared. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to say I've been seeing a lot recently, like in the last, hour or so, about people begging for the Rangers to retaliate in some way against the Rays hitters. And I think that's just kind of a stupid idea. When I look at this lineup that we're facing, I don't see a single guy that I think I want to put him on. I want to give him a free base and see what happens, especially when you have a guy like Heaney going out tomorrow who has been homer prone. I think you have to limit as many base runners as possible. I get that Maton hit 3 batters. I get that he was a former Astro. I understand the context. But I think if you go out there and you say you need to make a statement, you need to be, acting like you're not the world champs, it just feels like a questionable opinion from somebody that really doesn't know ball. I think that it's kind of silly. I think I had a little bit more faith in Rangers fans, and that was a little shaken this night. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate the call. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. First of all, this is not a great Rays lineup, but that usually doesn't play a role here. I think, we had a call earlier, and I don't necessarily agree in general with throwing at guys. I think there are other ways to typically go about this, but you just had 3 guys get hit: Evan Carter, Adolis Garcia, and Josh Young. And I don't know that we're out of the woods with Adolis. I know he stayed in the game. I hope he's okay. Maybe we are, but we're not with Josh Young. And I think the answer to that question is going to be determined by that clubhouse. Andrew Heaney's a veteran. He understands how this goes. It's not about injuring another player. It's just about letting teams know, hey, you're going to throw at us, or if you're going to hit us, just be careful. It's important to show that you're not going to back down. And it's important to stand up for your teammates or your teammate who's going to be out for the next 8 weeks. They might not throw at anyone, right? But I can promise you this, knowing how things operate there and across all clubhouses. If they don't throw at anyone, it's because they have come together as a group and said, hey, we're going to figure out another way. But, I mean, you saw with the Rhys Hoskins, Jeff McNeil thing. I mean, throwing at someone is a way to just send a message like, hey, you're not going to bully us. And when you get punched, it allows you to step back. I don't believe in throwing at people's heads. And a part of the reason I don't like throwing at people is because I don't think guys they don't practice throwing at people. And so you might have every intention to throw it on someone's tush, and then you're not used to throwing it not over the plate, and then bam, you go above the shoulders, and that's not good. I don't know that I have a strong opinion one way or the other. I would tell you I'd be a little surprised if they didn't do something just because it was 3 guys and you lost an all-star player. I don't think it's about hey, we're trying to, worry about things we're not, we shouldn't be worried about. I just think it's no different than a hard foul in basketball, or, if there's a cheap shot in the NFL, you maybe block a guy hard the next time. You send a message, you protect your teammates. It's just kind of the way things go. And I imagine, much like the Astros doing it in the postseason last year, it's just, it happens. I'm not saying I guarantee it's going to happen. I would just say this: if it does happen, I don't have an issue with it. If it doesn't happen, I don't have an issue with it. Because if it doesn't happen, then that means that the players in that clubhouse came together and said, "Hey, we're good, all good." I don't think it's not going to happen because everyone expects it to happen, and Andrew Heaney just doesn't do it. He's a veteran. He's not a young guy. We'll know how the team feels based on what Andrew Heaney does tomorrow. Kenneth in Waxahachie, you're up with us at 877-881-1053. Hey, Kenneth.
Hey, how's it going? That's a beautiful thing about baseball. You have 20, 30 different moves you can make based off one scenario. And with Bruce Bochy, he's got the luxury right now. He doesn't have to make a roster move, anytime soon. We got Josh Smith and Ezekiel that can play, multiple positions. So it doesn't force Bochy to make a quick decision and bring somebody up. He can kind of see the lay of the land for the next 3 or 4 games and then give them longer to, address the situation and all the ins and outs. And I think you got 2 guys on there that inside the clubhouse that you don't have to force to make a situation in the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I appreciate that. They're going to make a roster move tomorrow. They're not going to play for 3 or 4 days with 25 men instead of 26. But, depending on the route you go, if you're going to go with a guy who's on the 40-man, then I guess you can always just, undo that move a few days later. If you go with a guy who's not on the 40-man, it probably wouldn't be because you plan on making a counter move to that a few days later. But, I appreciate the thought behind that, Kenneth, but they're not going to play, for 3 or 4 days with just 25 on the roster. All right, Gray in Corsicana, 877-881-1053. Hey, Gray.
Hey, what's going on, man? First off, I want to tell you I really appreciate talking to you. I would love talking to you for longer if we ever got socially in that environment. I think Adolis needs to calm down a little bit because I feel like last year in Houston's thing, there wasn't really that warranted of him needing to react that way. And what I say about that is I feel like that pitcher was kind of out of control, and I feel like the pitcher tonight was a little bit out of control. But I feel like this ball club has a chance to be classy about everything that they're doing. And they have the chance to turn the other cheek, and there's really no reason to react that way. I understand Josh Young got hurt right after him, and I know there's a reason to react, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to do that. And the other thing is I don't necessarily feel like last year was on purpose either. And you and I might differ from that, and that's fine, but what I'm saying is I don't feel like there's a need to react that way. We need to turn the other cheek. We need to just win. And we're going to win because Bochy showed us what we did last year. Everybody got hurt last year. Everybody you can think of. Every big name you can think of. And the last thing I'm going to say is I think Justin Foscue needs a chance to be on this roster. I think he can be more than a first baseman. I think we need to give him a chance to do that.
I appreciate the call. Adolis was thrown at intentionally last year by Brian Abreu. I don't know that that's really disputable, but I understand Kenneth's stance there. And with Justin Foscue, I'd love to see him on the roster too, but he's had opportunities at third base defensively, and it just that's he's not ready, or he is not where he needs to be defensively to get everyday opportunities at third base. If the Rangers decide to put him there, I'd be really shocked. But I would love to find a way to get Justin Foscue's bat. I just don't know that this is the injury that warrants it or makes it make sense. Corey in Waco at 877-881-1053. Hey, Corey.
Hey, just trying to change up the vibe a little bit. What's the timeline on Max Scherzer return? I probably got April Fools earlier saying he's coming back quickly, but just a timeline on that. And as far as Nate Lowe, what's his recovery looking like as well?
Yeah, Max Scherzer. Yeah, appreciate the call, Corey. Max Scherzer, mid to late May. Nathaniel Lowe, mid to late April. Neither guy is close enough away to where we can really laser in on a return. I think that, those ranges are probably what are most appropriate right now. With Max, obviously, that's further away. That can change. One setback, one little delay could bump it back. But I think there's a lot of confidence that Max Scherzer will be back mid to late May, and with Nathaniel Lowe, hopefully by the end of the month. If not, then very shortly thereafter. All right, Rick in Plano at 877-881-1053. Hey, Rick.
Hello, Jared. I just wanted to say 3 hit by pitches in one game is kind of atrocious. But Josh Young in particular, I just hope the best for him. I mean, he's just coming off an injury. I just want to see him have the support and be able to get back to what he's capable of doing. I think it's a huge disappointment that he has to go through this again. That's all I have to say. Love you guys. Thanks for your time.
I appreciate it, Rick, and absolutely. More than anything else, it stinks for a guy like Josh Young, who is, he's just snake bitten when it comes to this stuff. The line drive that hurt his thumb last year, getting hit by a pitch, got off to a great start. He worked his tail off to be ready for opening day after the calf issue in spring training. No doubt a big bummer for Josh, and hopefully his recovery will go smoothly and he'll be back out there, in mid to late June or maybe sooner. I don't know what the timeline is, and hopefully he'll be ready to go. And you also kind of, in the grand scheme of things, this is minor, but this will probably be, I don't want to say probably, but if Josh Young were to stay with the Rangers his whole career, this would be the only time you'd imagine where the All-Star game will be at his home ballpark. And I'd say you'd have a pretty good shot of being an All-Star, but this kind of crushes that. And I know that for guys, it's special to be an All-Star, but it's even more special to be an All-Star at your home park. And you just hate that this probably gets in the way of that. And much like last year, it's not just one guy who needs to step up, right? Whoever is going to be the everyday third baseman doesn't need to be Josh Young. But it'd be great if someone got hot over this stretch. Remember, Marcus Semien got hot when Corey Seager went down. Ezekiel Duran was really good when Corey Seager went down. So was Leody Taveras. Who are the guys who are going to step up? I think that's a big question when we look back and, kind of appraise how this team did without Josh Young. All right. If you got some final thoughts, 877-881-1053, you can call in. We're going to take a quick break. Otherwise, we'll wrap things up when we come back. The Rangers over the Rays 9-3 on your home of the Rangers, 105.3 The Fan.
Join us for extra innings after every game on 105.3 The Fan. And give a shout out to Uber Eats for teaming up with us and delivering home run deals to you and your family all season long. Check out their all-star lineup of restaurants, the best selection you'll find on the Uber Eats app. You'll score a win every time you order when you take advantage of the many offers available from their partner restaurants. Download the Uber Eats app and make them a part of your game plan all season.
This is the greatest! We appreciate you having a good time with us. Your Turn It On, Leave It On Good Time station is DFW Sports Leader, 105.3 The Fan.
Selling a home and moving with 9 kids? One Texas couple was facing just that until they heard about Orchard's Move First, Sell Later. Orchard handled the repairs, upgrades, and what they dreaded most, the home showings.
How do we sell our house? How do we make our house showable with so many kids in it? And we were able to sell the house for more than we thought we would. Orchard was just a trusted partner in the process.
You'll love how easy Orchard makes buying your next home before you sell. For your free home valuation, visit Orchard.com. That's Orchard.com.
All right, well, the Rangers over the Rays 9-3. Jared Sandler with you. Thanks so much for riding with us tonight. Hate that we're 4 games in and we're having to have these conversations, but that's just the reality of sports, really. It's not just baseball. You deal with injuries, and you got to figure out a way to recover, and that's where the Rangers are. They've done it before. They did it last year. They did it, under much dire circumstances last year, and hopefully the depth that we tout with this team really comes to the fore. And it'll be interesting to see what the Rangers choose to do tomorrow with a roster move, who's going to get called up. Again, I without having a ton of time to stew over this, I think Ezekiel Duran will likely get a majority of the opportunities at third. And maybe some Josh Smith. Perhaps you call someone up who can then platoon at first base or help you fill the void with a platoon at first base. With Jared Walsh, if they feel like they need a platoon over there. But that's sort of the direction I think this goes. All right, well, the Rangers get the win 9-3. Quickly, outside of the Josh Young injury, Evan Carter continues to get on base without getting hits. White Langford continues to get hits. He's got hits in 4 straight. Corey Seager continues to get on base 3 times, a walk, an intentional walk, and then a base knock. And Adolis Garcia with his 100th career home run. And then Dane Dunning showed off a really good changeup. He had 7 swings and misses on the changeup, 1 shy of his career high in that department specifically. He had 18 swings and misses overall. He only had 1 start with more swings and misses last season. 7 strikeouts over 6 1/3. Really, really nice job by Dane Dunning tonight. And hopefully they can get that from Dane next time he takes the ball, which will be against the Houston Astros. All right, that's going to do it for us. The Rangers over the Rays by a score of 9-3. For Rigo Mendoza and Alec Medford here in DFW. For Ed Pendino, our on-site engineer in Tampa Bay. For Matt Hicks and the voice of the Rangers, Eric Nadel, Jared Sandler, thanking you for being with us. 9-3, the Rangers over the Rays. Back tomorrow, first pitch at 5:50 in the Metroplex, our pregame coverage beginning at 5:15. We'll talk to you then.
The place to hear sports.
Swing and a miss. Struck it out.
With lots of this mixed in. Thanks for listening and sharing some laughs, Tony.